This is Real Talk with Preshpen, where we say what people are thinking but won't say.
Welcome back. And if this is your first time here, I'm really glad you're listening. Because here, we don't stay on the surface. We go deeper than what sounds good. Today, we're slowing everything down. Not to relax, not to escape, not to take a break, but to talk about something deeper. Rest, not sleep, not vacation, not laziness. Rest. The kind of rest that forces you to sit with yourself again. The kind that makes silence feel unfamiliar. Because somewhere along the way, being busy became proof that you matter. And rest started feeling like something you have to earn. Speaking when we're mindful, even when our bodies are asking us to stop. And we ignore it till we can't anymore. So today we're asking, what if rest is not a reward? What if rest is resistance? To unpack that, I'm joined by Dr. Simone Carter. Thank you for having me, Preshpen. And honestly, after that introduction, I feel like I need to breathe first. We're just getting started.
Segment 1. What rest as resistance means.
When people hear rest as resistance, they either think it's powerful or they think it's an excuse to be lazy. So what does it actually mean? At its core, it means refusing to tie your worth to your productivity. We live in a culture that teaches us that value comes from output. The more you do, the more you're worth. The busier you are, the more you matter. So rest as resistance is saying, I refuse to destroy myself to prove I deserve to exist. Let me push that a bit. Some people genuinely love working. They feel alive when they're building. Are we saying ambition is unhealthy? No, but balance is key. There's a difference between productive flow and compulsive productivity. Flow is chosen, compulsion feels necessary. And I always ask clients, can you stop? Can you sit in silence without reaching for something to fix, check, or improve? If you can't, then it's worth asking why. Because sometimes what we call ambition is actually anxiety.
Segment 2. The addiction to busyness.
I need to be honest here. There was a time I couldn't sit still. If I was driving, I needed audio. If I was eating, I needed content. If I was alone, I was scrolling. And then one day I sat in silence, just a few minutes, and I felt uncomfortable, not bored, uncomfortable, like I was sitting with someone I didn't recognize. And then it hit me, that person was me. That's very common because when silence shows up, everything we've avoided shows up with it. Grief, fear, loneliness, regret, unanswered questions. And most people stay busy because silence feels heavier than exhaustion. That's scary. It is, but healing often begins there, when you finally stop running long enough to hear what's inside you. And most of the time, it's not a monster, it's a wound.
Who taught us rest must be earned?
Where does this belief come from that rest must be earned? It often starts early, even if no one says it directly. Praise comes when you perform, attention comes when you achieve, so you learn that doing equals worth. Then society reinforces it. Work reinforces it, social media reinforces it, and eventually you internalize it. So even when no one is watching, you are still performing. That's powerful, and that's the dangerous part. Because the pressure doesn't stop, it just moves inside you. Exactly, and that internal pressure is often what leads to burnout that people don't even recognize, because it feels normal.
Segment 4. Who rest was never designed for.
I want to talk about something deeper, especially women, mothers, caregivers, women who are expected to hold everything together. Where does that expectation come from? It often starts as survival. Strength becomes necessary when support is absent, but survival becomes identity when it's repeated long enough. So generations inherit messages like, don't stop, don't complain, keep going, handle it, until the message becomes, your pain is not important enough to rest for, and that is not true. I also think faith gets pulled into this conversation. People hear, God won't give you more than you can handle, and suddenly rest feels like weakness. Yes, and I say this with respect for faith. Rest is not the absence of faith. Even in scripture, rest is present. Jesus rested, he withdrew, he stepped away. Rest is not the opposite of faith, it is part of being human.
Segment 5. Social media and burnout culture.
Social media has made exhaustion look impressive. People post hustle like it's achievement. What is that doing to us? It normalizes burnout. It makes self-neglect look like success, but the body doesn't care about trends. It responds to limits, and limits always win. The body doesn't negotiate, never. You can delay it, ignore it, but eventually, it collects what it's owed.
Segment 6. The hard question.
There are people listening who cannot afford rest. So is rest as resistance only for some people? Extended rest is a privilege. We have to be honest about that. But rest as resistance also includes fighting for systems that allow rest. Because rest is tied to wages, healthcare, working conditions. It's personal and political. But even in survival mode, rest still exists in small forms. A pause, a breath, a boundary, a moment of stillness.
Segment 7. What rest actually looks like.
For someone who feels guilty when they slow down, what do? Start by noticing the guilt instead of obeying it. Ask, whose voice is this? Because most guilt isn't original, it's inherited. And what is inherited can be unlearned. Rest doesn't have to be big. It can be eating without distraction, walking without urgency, sitting without multitasking, breathing fully, because many people have lost connection with their own bodies. And the body is always speaking. And usually, it's saying, stop. Please, I've been asking you for a long time.
Final reflection.
So maybe rest isn't the opposite of ambition. Maybe it's what makes ambition sustainable. Maybe exhaustion is not proof of success. Maybe it's proof of overload. And maybe the strongest people aren't the ones who never stop, but the ones who finally do, long enough to hear themselves again. Yes. Dr. Simone Carter, thank you for this conversation. Thank you for having me. And to everyone listening, if there's one thing I hope you take from this episode, it's this. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to deserve rest. You are allowed to be human. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not weakness. Rest is resistance. And today I'm asking you to resist. I'm Preshpen. This is Real Talk with Preshpen. Until next time, be human and rest.
Thank you for listening. If this conversation stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.